Hare Krishna, welcome devotees to the Gita Daily session. So today we will be discussing Sloka number 6.17. So let's take the blessings of Lord Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maya Sudarshan, Lakshmi Narasimhadev Gauranitai Panchatattva. By their mercy, let's understand the transcendental topics of Bhagavad Gita. Let's recite the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Let's dedicate the session to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. By his tireless effort, he has spread the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita throughout the world. And by his mercy, we are able to understand Bhagavad Gita in a simple and a practical way that we can apply in a day-to-day life. So let's thank Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today's shloka is 6.17. Let's recite the shloka. युक्ताहारविहारस्य युक्तचेतस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः. Repetition. युक्ताहारविहारस्य युक्तचेतस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by the practice of yoga system. Let's see the word meaning. Yukta, regulated, ahara, eating, viharasya, recreation, yukta, regulated, chetasya, of one who works for the maintenance, karmashu, in discharging duties, yukta, regulated, swapna avabodhasya, sleep and wakefulness, yoga, practice of yoga, bhavati, becomes dukkha, diminishing pains. So let's again see the shloka. Meaning, he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So now we are moving to the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. From the previously fifth chapter we were discussing, which is Karma Yoga, action and Krishna consciousness. So the sixth chapter is actually Dhyana Yoga. So here Lord actually is explaining to Arjuna the process of Dhyana Yoga, which is also known as Ashtanga Yoga. Patanjali, Ashtanga Yoga. So basically, which consists of 8 limbs. So, so we actually, as we discussed, so we are trying to understand Bhagavad Gita, in the footsteps of the acharyas, right? So we have seen previously there are 4 authorized sampradaya, and we are following the Brahma, Madhava, Gaudiya sampradaya. So Brahma, Madhava, Gaudiya sampradaya. So it's also an offshoot of Madhava sampradaya, which is one of the 4 authorized parampara. So the acharyas have understood. So the acharyas of all these 4 sampradaya, they are more or less in agreement, about understanding the scriptures, right? So we are following their footsteps. So, so what we will see is that basically, so in this chapter, as I mentioned, it is summarizing of yoga process. So we'll take what is the real essence. So since we all of you know, right, we are not going through all the shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. There are 80 chapters, 700 shlokas. So the acharyas have selected 108 essential shlokas, which actually conveys the essence of Bhagavad Gita according to the acharyas. Right. So in this particular chapter of Dhyana Yoga, so there are a few shlokas we are taking. So but I will try to summarize overall, how the Bhagavad Gita is organized today, and also, a summary of Ashtanga Yoga process which Lord explains. So many acharyas like Madhavacharya, Ramanujacharya, and the acharyas in our parampara, so they have actually classified the Bhagavad Gita 18 chapters into 3 parts. There is the first 6 chapters, then the middle 6 chapters, and the last 6 chapters. Right. So, so actually, the middle chapters is considered as the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Right. So it is just like a treasure or a very valuable thing. Is stored between two, or it is hidden between 2 parts. right? Or it's like a sandwich, right? So the first six chapters is talking about the karma yoga, jnana yoga, etc. And the last six chapters actually tries to wrap up. Basically it talks about jnana, sannyasa, and other. It's trying to wrapping up. And the middle six chapters are is the rahasya or the secret of Bhagavad Gita. So which actually is talking about the real essence, which is which is the Bhakti Yoga, right? So this way the chapters of Bhagavad Gita is overall organized into three compartments, and the middle six chapters are the most important part actually, according to the acharyas, right? So in this sixth chapter, the Lord actually talks to Arjuna about the Ashtanga Yoga process, how one can execute the Ashtanga Yoga. So initially we saw what is the Karma Yoga part initially, right? So now Ashtanga Yoga basically is actually the process, which actually today whatever yoga we generally understand, right? When we say yoga, right, we mostly talk about Ashtanga Yoga process. So the word yoga actually comes from the word yuj, Sanskrit word yuj, means to connect. So unless and until, so every yoga, whatever yoga it is, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, or dhyana yoga, the purpose of all the yogas is to connect to Supreme Lord, right? So the yoga process doesn't have a meaning if it is independently done without connection to the Supreme. The purpose of all the yoga, right, in either karma yoga, any of the yoga, the ultimate purpose of all the yoga is to connect to Supreme Lord. So if you do yoga, but then there is no connection to Supreme, then actually it is not fruitful. There is no ultimate benefit is not available. So today's world, because of the degradation in the knowledge, Vedic knowledge, so we generally do yoga, just thinking that okay, to have a healthy body or a healthy mind, which actually is also important because the body is the vehicle. If you don't maintain the vehicle properly, then you cannot execute anything. So it is important to have a healthy body and healthy mind. But then if you stop there, then actually we don't get the ultimate purpose. So the purpose of yoga, like even dhyana yoga or ashtanga yoga, is ultimately to connect back to the Lord. So the Ashtanga Yoga actually consists of 8 limbs, which actually you can see on the table on the right side, which is the Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Right? So these are the 8 Ashta Anga, right? 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. So basically, any spiritual process no has some of these elements. Like Yama Niyama is there for all spiritual process. So Yama Niyama is like the do's and don'ts and do's. So Yama are the don'ts, Niyama are the do's. For example, like we should be non-violent, having doing celibacy, right, being truthful. So these kind of things. There are some rules and regulations, right, which are there to be followed. Even if you want to successfully be in yoga also, you're supposed to be following the proper yama and niyama, but in today's world people don't do it, they just do only mostly focus directly on the asanas. So next is asanas are the postures. We know different asanas are there, like we have sarvangasana, right, matsyasana. There are like different asanas are there, right, shirshasana. So these asanas actually are for the body, to ensure that the body becomes healthy. Different asanas are performed. Then there is pranayama, which is the breath control, right? We have anulom vilom pranayama. So there are different kind of pranayama, which actually is about controlling the breath, right? Puraga, rejaga, like that and all. Then pratyahara actually is controlling the senses, withdrawing the senses, and regulating the senses. So this is pratyahara. So in today's shloka, Krishna is talking more about this pratyahara. Right? Last shloka also, we saw that. Then dharana is the concentration, like consciously controlling the mind. No, dharana and dhyana is targeted at the mind, controlling the mind. Right? Dhyana means meditation. Ultimately, samadhi is means fully, completely being absorbed in the Lord. Right? And then earlier yogis used to go to samadhi. They were actually executing yoga with so strict rigor that actually they, by the process controlling the life air, they can leave the body right through the top of the head. So, so the chakras, right? So basically, this is Ashtanga process, right? But essentially, what we understood from the acharyas is that, or from Krishna himself, right? So when after Krishna explains to Arjuna the Ashtanga process, then Arjuna says, we'll see that shloka. Uh, second. Yeah, so in this shloka number 33, Arjuna says, Arjuna uvaja yoyam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudana edasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvad sthitham siram. So what Arjuna says after hearing the Ashtanga Yoga, he says, Arjuna said, Oh Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me. For the mind is restless and unsteady. So to be successful in yoga, no, the mind has to be fully controlled. Then actually next sloka, Chanjalam hi mana Krishna pramadi balavad dridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayo riva sudushkaram. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. Oh Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. So Arjuna says that this yoga system is very difficult. So Arjuna is actually a great warrior, and he is a fully self-controlled person. From the Mahabharata, we can know Arjuna's characteristics. But even Arjuna says that it is difficult for him to do execute the Ashtanga Yoga process. So Krishna replies, Chanjala, Krishna says that Shri Bhagavan Vacha Asam Shayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam. So he says that no, whatever you told is right, Arjuna. There is no doubt that it is difficult to control the mind. So basically, essence, what acharyas understand or decipher from this is that so also we know that we have earlier seen for every yoga there is a process, right? So Kridaya Dhyaya Vishnu. In the Trita Yuga, Kreta Yuga, sorry, Krita Yuga or Satya Yuga, the process was meditation. So at that time the people have to have very long lifespan. And the environment was very favorable. For actually sattvic environment was there. So the meditation was possible. But in this Kali Yuga, it is very difficult to perform Ashtanga Yoga in a perfect way. So so in the last shloka of this chapter, we will come to that shloka, after two sessions. So what is the summary? Like 6.47, it is mentioned. Yogina bhavi sarvesha mat gade nandaratmana shraddhavan bhajade yomam samay yukta tamomata. So Krishna in the end says, of all the yogis, one who is always meditating upon me, right, with devotion, he is the topmost. So the acharyas have extracted a summary or essence of what actually has to be understood. So the conclusion is that even though Ashtanga Yoga actually is good, is favorable, we don't reject Ashtanga Yoga because practically we need to have a healthy body, right, and a controlled mind, which actually is also in the mode of goodness. So Ashtanga Yoga process will help us in that, but it is not mandatory. No, Ashtanga Yoga is not necessary because when we execute Bhakti Yoga, which is higher than Ashtanga Yoga, right? How when we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, then we already get all the benefits of performing Ashtanga Yoga and move beyond that. Because Ashtanga Yoga, the ultimate benefit of the destination of Ashtanga Yogi or Yogi is to become liberated actually. His aim is to merge with the Brahman, right? Which actually is also one kind of liberation. But then that is not the ultimate liberation because even if you merge with Brahman, it is mentioned that after many long period of time, the Jiva's independence is not lost. The Jiva is still there. Just like a bird, green bird enters a green forest, right? And apparently it looks like the bird is merged to the forest, but actually the bird still exists. So similarly, even though somebody attains this impersonal liberation, it is not eternal because after many long period of time, because the jiva always wants activity, the jiva again come back. So it is not ultimate. So beyond Ashtanga Yoga is actually the liberation, which actually is like returning back to our original constitutional position, going back to spiritual world and serving the Lord. That is ultimate liberation. So we will see that. Yeah. So yeah. So basically, these are some of the essential topics, points of today's discussion. We will also quickly look at today's sloka, right? What actually is the essence. So what today's sloka Lord says is that yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasya karmasu yukta swapna bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in his habits. So basically, today's sloka talks about the pratyahara part. Krishna says you is regulated in the habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work. Right? So the regulation is mandatory. Only such a person can attain success in yoga. So this is what Lord actually is saying. So how do we connect to our flow, what we were discussing? So we already seen that, right? So basically there are four basic things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, right? Which are the fundamental things which all jivas does. Human beings also does, animals also does. So Lord is saying that it has to be regulated. So how can we apply practically? So eating means we have seen, right? At least we should eat sattvic food, right? If we eat sattvic food, then our mind and consciousness will also be sattvic. So sattvic food are actually, like fruits and vegetables, right? Milk, right? Grains. So these are all sattvic food. But having too much spices like onion, garlic, so these are all things are not allowed actually. Even in yoga, it is not allowed to eat non-vegetarian food. Right? This sattvic food is recommended. So we should eat sattvic food. Nidra, about sleeping also it is mentioned. No? So Nidra means we should have proper sleep, right? But not too much sleep or too less, right? It should be regulated. No, so basically, it can vary based on the person's need, right? No, it can be 6 hours to 8 hours, whatever actually works for the person, right? And also, it is important to wake up in the early morning, Brahma Muhurta time, because that is a time of mode of goodness, right? All good activities, sattvic activities, we can perform in the Brahma Muhurta, like early morning time, right? So we will see the examples in scriptures. No, so Rupa Goswami, who is one of our preeminent eminent acharyas in the sampradaya, he actually these acharyas, 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they actually had a very regulated life, right? So So the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, so like Rupa Sanadana, Jiva Goswami, Gopala Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. So these six Goswamis actually were the most important acharyas who have summarized, they learned and all the Vedic scriptures and they summarized the essence of Vedic scriptures. And then they lived in the forest of Vrindavan. So like in especially the Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So they are brothers. So they are actually like most important acharyas. So they were actually initially, they were ministers in the kingdom of the Muslim kingdom, no? Like King Nawab Hussain Shah. It was ruling Bengal. So they were ministers. They were very great scholars, learned people. But then they gave up everything, the ministership, everything, and then they went to the forest, with only like basic, like just the loin cloth, right? And then they were living under one tree. So they did not want to get attached even to the tree. So every day they change the tree. So one night they will sleep under one tree. Next night they sleep under another tree. So even the people who are renunciate, right? So there is sometimes a tendency to become attached to something. Even the dress, whatever small things we have possessed, that also they become attached. So to avoid that, they did not sleep under one tree. Right? And then they beg whatever food, no, they will beg. They do madhukari. They go house to house and then get whatever minimal food which is required for sustenance. So like that, they had a very austere life, right? So it is meant. So one of the Goswamis known as Raghunath Goswami, he was very very austere. So he used to, no, he used to only eat once in few days, and that also is one leaf cup of buttermilk, right? So like that, they were very very uh, austere. They wore torn clothes, no. Then it's like that they were completely absorbed in the Lord's service, right? The sloka is there, which mentioned Nidra Ahara Vihara Gadi Vijitau Chaitanya Dinau Chayau Chatyanda Dinau Chayo Radha Krishna Guna Smriter Madhurimanandena Sammohidau. So basically, this sloka says that they were Nidra Ahara Vihara. So they have controlled all their activities. Right? So these Goswamis are like ideal standards, no? Which actually we cannot imitate them, right? But the point we have to essentially understand is that this regulation is required actually, right? In any spiritual path, whether actually you take this bhakti or even Ashtanga yoga, every spiritual path requires regulation, right? So that automatically it gives us the determination, and it brings us to a sattvic environment, which actually is essential for practicing the bhakti. So with that, I think we come to the uh, essence, like the key topics we have covered. So, what are the key lessons or practical things we can apply in our life? So, from a personal life perspective, we just saw, right. We have to, our diet is very important, right? In bhakti also we say ABCD, right? Association like satsang, books, reading scriptures, chanting the holy name, C, and D, diet. So diet is very crucial because diet actually is what that we give to the body, right? It is mentioned a man is what he eats. So whatever food we eat, our consciousness accordingly is affected. So if we eat sattvic food, then actually our consciousness will remain in sattvic. So we should control our eating habits, right? Not eat anything and everything. If possible, eat only prasadam. Like between we have to cook nice food in a separate, like vessel, offer it in a separate plate to the Lord. Every day put tulsi leaf and offer it to the Lord. So this becomes prasadam. So if you whatever we eat, ideally speaking, we should eat only prasadam. So which will free us from the karmic cycle. And even if we eat sattvic also, doesn't fully free us from karmic cycle. It minimizes it. But then when we eat prasadam, we become spiritualized and purified. So similarly, sleeping habits we should control. No, we should not sleep too much or completely indisciplined. No, like someday you go to sleep at 10 o'clock, next day you go to sleep at 2 o'clock early morning. So that should not be. We should have as much as possible have a regular cycle, and have like necessary sleep, essential sleep, like if possible 6 hours is ideal, like that 6 to 8 hours, right? So this way our personal life has to be controlled. Similarly, in our work life also we should have discipline, right? Have a structure, and also try to balance between work and like personal life, right? So we should not be over passionate in work that we don't have enough time or enough rest, or we don't get enough time to family. So we should try to balance the things, regulation. This way, we should apply it in our day-to-day life. So the essence is that regulation is essential, for success in spiritual life. And essence, we'll also continue the discussion. So today's we discuss the summary of sixth chapter, which is talking about Ashtanga Yoga and how acharyas look at the Ashtanga Yoga, right? So these are the things we discussed today. So we'll end here. So anybody has any questions or somebody wants to leave at this point, they can leave. If somebody has a question, they can unmute and ask, or they can put it in the chat. Otherwise, if they want to later discuss, it also is fine. You can call me or message me. Anybody has any questions for the devotees? Hare Krishna. So looks like no questions. So I would like to thank all devotees for joining regularly. Please encourage devotees, other devotees who are also joining, and you can also extend the invitation to our friends, relatives, etc., so that more people are benefited. Okay, so we'll end here. Then if there are no questions, thanks all once again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. One thing, today is Ekadashi. I just forgot to mention. So according to our Vaishnava calendar, today is the Ekadashi, not yesterday. So devotees can do more spiritual activities. Whatever spiritual activity we do on Ekadashi day, we get multifold benefits of that. So we can based on our capacity and ability, we can take the Vrata of Ekadashi. So basically, most important is that try to spend more time in chanting and spiritual activities, reading, and also if possible, avoid eating grains, right? So we can eat non-grain food like fruits, vegetables, then milk. So this kind of food, if it's possible. Otherwise, you can eat yeah, non-grains. So for example, like sabudana or those kind of things we can have. So if you have any specific questions, we can discuss separately. But you can get the information in the internet also how to follow Ekadashi. So it is very, very, very important, no, for devotees to follow Ekadashi. So today is a very auspicious day. So you can possibly please do whatever is possible from your side, right? But the most important is that try to spend more time in remembering the Lord, right? Doing spiritual activities. That is the most important. Okay. Thanks again. We'll end here. Thanks.